Hey everyone, and welcome to Brad in Defense of Stranger Things Season 5. Okay? This isn't going to be, as big and elaborate as other, better, well put together video essays about Stranger Things Season 5. I'm just going to say that to you right now. Okay? I'm not going to defend all the decisions that the Duffers made and all that crap. I'm just a casual fan who is here to tell you, I had some fun with season 5. Were there things that I didn't care for in the season? Sure. Are the video essays that other people have put together, accurate about, like, oh, hey, here are a lot of the problems with the season? Yes, they are, as far as I've seen, because I've, watched a number of them. But I just want to say, despite the flaws, I'm fine with how things ended up. Okay? And that's, like, the key point, is how things ended up. Okay? With the entire party. So, really quick, before we get into everything, spoiler warning for Stranger Things Season 5 if you have not seen it. Just be aware I'm going to spoil it. I'm not going to go over everything because this is a very informal video that I just decided to put together myself. Ideally, I might be able to get Patrick in on a video for this. We talked about it some time ago, but obviously adult lives are busy, so yada yada. So Patrick, we might do this, if we can coordinate it still. I don't care if it's in 6 months. We can do it then, and it'll be perfectly fine, okay? I get striking while the iron is hot is important. But, there's some stuff that I just want to go and say, hey, in spite of blah, I like this. Like, one day I'd like to talk about Back to the Future with you. I'd like to talk about Die Hard. I'd like to talk about Gremlins. I'd like to talk about other stuff. Because these are just, like, little time capsules of the stuff that we liked. That maybe, other people might stumble across one day and they might talk about. I don't know. So I'm not worried about, timing for this. If we do this now or later or never, that's perfectly fine. This is just a fun little casual series that I get to do just for fun, for me. But also, I'd like to get you involved because you are good and you have good perspectives on things. So yeah, but back to the subject at hand. Stranger Things Season 5. It was a bit wild and crazy and messy, and it, they could have done things differently and things would have worked better. But this is, hey, what I liked about Season 5. You might call this my little audition for cinema wins with a W. I love your work, sir. You do good stuff. Keep it up. I haven't watched recently, but yeah, I appreciate all the work that you do. I'm just going to go over random stuff that I liked, and that's basically the whole video. So yeah. What did I like in this season? Obviously the attack on the Wheeler house, that was crazy. That was very cool. Karen going after a Demogorgon with a broken bottle. Holy crap. That was awesome. I feel terrible about, how terrified Holly the character was during all that, but it was an awesome thing. What else was cool? The crawl. I mean, how they worked out this communication system, for like, oh hey, we're going to do a crawl, here's all the details that you guys need to know. Flying under the radar of the military. Like, that was just cool. The Squawk, the radio station. Steve and Robin working together again. Again, they're a great freaking team, man. Like, I love them. They're awesome. Ah, God. like what I'm just trying to showcase here is there's a lot to like about the season. For the critics and the people who are analyzing this stuff, yeah, there's a lot you can point at, and honestly, you can do that with so many things. And that's fine. But I'm here to say it's okay to just enjoy things. That's okay too. Okay? Cool. But yeah, what else? I'll be honest, I didn't like the Derek character as much in the beginning. Like, he's amusing, but like, God, he just. No offense to the actor, the character just grated on my nerves. Sorry, dude. Just saying, that's my personal opinion. So not everything that I liked, I guess. What else? What else? What else? I forget which part. I forget which episode it was, but dude, that big reveal with Will after that long, one take shot. Holy crap. That was awesome and epic and amazing, and I freaking loved it. Freaking, the chase through the hospital, that was some crazy wild stuff, and I liked, I can't remember her name, but, the nurse girl saying, dude, just say it over the PA if they don't understand English. And freaking just that bit of cleverness, because Robin, was desperately trying to call Lucas in the room with Max, and obviously he wasn't picking up. That scene that I want to say parodies Alien 3 or something, where like they're just huddled up by the washers and the demo dogs are just inching closer. And the freaking explosive tank in the dryer. The dogs look at it, the slow shot of, the tank turns flammable before it exploded. Obviously, that's kind of crazy that she set that up before they got there or after they got there or whatever, but still, it was freaking cool, and I loved it. Whenever they have to leave Karen behind, like, Mom, we'll get her back. Trust us, please. And, like, it was a quick moment, but I appreciated it. And Dustin's character throughout this season, like, obviously having some serious PTSD after losing Eddie, and I felt that. Like, Gatton or Gaten, however you say your name, you did an awesome job of portraying that. The anger, the depression, the frustration, the, lashing out at everybody. Like, I get it. I've unfortunately been there myself. You might argue that I am still there in some regards, and I'm going to work on that, but yeah, like, Dustin's story arc was, it worked for me. And I appreciate it. If you die, I die too. Pat, obviously you're Steve, I'm Dustin. Just saying. I know it's been like that forever, and I've said it a million freaking times, probably, but yeah, you die, I die, okay? Don't. Are we clear? I'm trying to think of other stuff, and like a good closing bit. Like, obviously I know the closing bit, but yeah, just I don't know. The Mr. What's-It thing, I'm not as familiar with A Wrinkle in Time. It's been years since I've read it. Like, honestly, that was like it was for Holly, like elementary, early middle school. I can't remember it at all. That was an interesting idea, but yeah, like, I don't know, I didn't care as much for it. So that's two things, but it's also against a bunch of things that I liked. Driving the Beamer through the portal, that was crazy awesome. Breaking into that military base in the Upside Down, having a military base in the Upside Down, holy crap, that was awesome. Linda Hamilton and that soldier guy were a bit underused, and their parts weren't as big and dramatic and blah blah blah, but Linda freaking Hamilton, man, Sarah Connor, coming, like, still, like, gotta be 60-ish? Please don't shoot me in the face. And still kicking butt and being an intimidating, assertive lady. Respect. I'm 38, I'm not nearly as good as that. The scene where Elle stays behind in the Upside Down and is consumed by the black hole or whatever. That was crazy. Also, I didn't care as much for, Jonathan and Nancy in that room with the sludge and stuff. I mean, I don't know. Like, yay for them having their moment, but yeah, I didn't care for it. I'm getting towards the end. You know, that twist with, oh no, it's not a bridge, it's some connective tissue thing or whatever. I don't know. I can't remember it. Like, this is February. I watched it literally as it came out, so going back 2 and 3 months, it's not as easy. And like, honestly, just ultimately, I think I'm basically at the end of this. What I ultimately liked was just the endings for all of the characters. You know, again, spoiler warning for the very end of the final episode. But you know, the party lived through the fight. You know, also it was a cool cinematic fight of, you know, the party laying into the mind flayer with, you know, various weapons. I have to say, I think it was kind of stupid going under the belly of the monster with spears and poking up at it, but you guys do you. But I just loved, you know, that little bit of freaking, I think it was Lucas had the slingshot and fired, you know, the gasoline water balloons onto it, and then Mike with the flare gun, you know, just lighting them up. Like, that was cool. They didn't draw attention to it, but I noticed it, and I was just like, yes. Because the slingshot has been around since the very beginning of the show. You know, I remember they used it, like, at the end of season 1. Basically shot the thing. It did nothing. The Demogorgon. It did nothing. But then it made another appearance in season 3, and it was used to pop a balloon to draw the mind flayer, or whatever the heck that monster was, away from them. That was awesome. Again, they didn't draw attention to it, but it was just a nice little detail, and I appreciated it. Oh yeah, also, like, Max's story arc of, like, she was lost in Henry's mind and, you know, had to find her way and stuff like that. That was interesting. A bit weird, but it was a cool, like, excuse, reason for Max to still be alive. And I appreciate that, because I like the Max character, and I didn't want something bad to happen to her. Because, I mean, you know, after, you know, the first fight with Vecna in that red room, let's call it, you know, the Kate Bush song as she escaped, the black screen, and just, you know, ah! Like, if something bad had happened to her, that would have broken my heart. You know, with the, you know, the plan of, whatever you guys are going to do, you need to put him in the ground while I, you know, draw his attention. That took balls. You're a child going up against a fucking telekinetic monster. And you're like, yeah, I'll do it. I'm fucking terrified, but I'm gonna fucking do it. So if, you know, she had, unfortunately, been lost, that would have really sucked for me personally. And then, basically just the end I liked. You know, not every person's ending specifically, but, you know, just a few of the shots were nice. You know, talking on the rooftop of the Squawk, you know, Jonathan, Nancy, Robin, Steve. Like, that was a nice bit. You know, and like people talked about, like, yeah, it's a bit unfortunate too, because it's like adulthood, you know, like you say, oh yeah, we'll meet up, you know, like every month or once a month or whatever. And then eventually, you know, you guys go different paths. You know, it's a common thing. But I liked, you know, everybody had a nice little life going. You know, Steve was the coach of the baseball team. You know, I forget what everybody else was doing, because I wasn't as invested in them, to be completely honest. Except for Robin. Like, I like Robin. You know, Nancy and Jonathan, like, they're good characters. They served their point. But, like, you know, they made it through, and I'm glad for that. But, you know, I'm not as concerned with, oh, hey, you know, Nancy's going to be a great press reporter or whatever. And then Dustin's ending, you know, like, breaking out of, you know, that depression of, I lost Eddie and I almost lost Steve and my other friends. Like I said, I've been in that place to a degree. So seeing somebody come back from that, and it made me feel good. You know, and just that shot of, you know, Dustin in the library, and then he comes outside and Steve's there with his, you know, little RV and stuff like that. That was really nice. You know, because I do want them to, you know, still be friends even after, you know, Hawkins. You know, I'll admit I didn't care as much for, you know, Mike's theory on what happened with Elle. But, like, to put a positive spin on it, like, people are going to have their theories of Elle did get to survive. And, like, to get to actually see that on the screen, that's nice. Bit dumb, bit blah, 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 but it was nice. I'm trying to think if there's anyone else that I want to talk about before I wrap this up. I don't think so. Oh yeah, one other, like, obviously rewinding a bit, but basically the final bit with Joyce taking out the monster. That was cool too. They did that very well. And I'd be like, yeah, obviously they freaking had to do that well, but like, they did it well. You know, for all the complaints that people are like, oh my gosh, they, you know, messed up, they ruined it, blah, 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 they tarnished the legacy. They did that well. Okay? And why, you know, I'm fine with saying I liked Season 5, you know, is because I'm invested in the characters, okay? I watched all of Supernatural. I didn't do it for, oh, you know, we're going to take on God and blah, blah, blah. I did it because of the Winchester characters and their expanding universe of friends, okay? That's why I liked it. You know, I don't care if the story was stupid or over the top or crazy by the end. I was in it for those characters because I liked them. They drew me in. Just like the Stranger Things series. Just like other series. So yeah. The finale may have its issues. And that's fine. I get it. It's not going to be everybody's cup of tea. But I'm here to say to those of you who did like it, it's okay. There was good stuff there. You don't have to, you know, be super critical and analytical of everything ever. You know, there's value in those complaints and thoughts and all that, you know, for future projects. Don't get me wrong. But sometimes it's okay to just turn your brain off and go, I enjoyed this. It was nice. It worked for me. So, you know, I hope with that, you know, you can take some solace in, yay, Stranger Things was nice. You know, I might try and go back and watch, you know, from the beginning again to the end, like, in kind of a marathon. You know, I don't know, we'll see. Like, I tried to watch, you know, season 1 again, and it just felt so weird going back to 1. But yeah. You know, this is not an official video. This is just a personal video of Brad's thoughts on Stranger Things, Season 5. You know, I liked it. And it's okay for you to like it too. And it's okay for others to look at it critically and go, here's what didn't work, here's what they could have done, here's what they could have changed. And like, I've seen some good ideas and thoughts, and like, yeah, I agree, like, that would have been cool. But this is what we got. And I'm trying to show appreciation that we got it. This started 10 years ago, or 11 years ago, whatever. Okay? The fact that everyone stayed on and we got to the end with everyone is pretty impressive. Okay? They went from kids to, you know, young adults. Like, thank you for staying on. Thank you for playing your parts, and playing your parts well. You know? Like, you could have phoned it in, you could have done poorly at the end, but you did good, in my opinion. You know, again, I'm just a casual viewer, and I'm just here to say I liked parts of it. I liked enough of it to say that I liked it. You know, so this is my paying respect to you guys. Thank you for doing that. I know it probably was not easy, but I would say that it was worth it. And that's something. Yeah, that's a really good line to go out on. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going out on that line. It was hard to do, but it was worth it.